welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. My name is Jess, and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information that I want to cover with you. All right, let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. So if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Now, keep in mind that if you do have any technical issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on today, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you, so throughout today's EcoCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over a live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. Now, if we don't get to your question during the live webinar today, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us will be following up after we wrap. All right, next up, there's going to be lots of cool aha moments on the EcoCast today. And if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's EcoCast will be automatically added to your post. All right, our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the handouts tab for some awesome resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection, solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. Now, if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes that we'll be giving away throughout today's EcoCast. I'm going to tell you a bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. First, you do need to be here live in attendance at the EcoCast in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all of you after we wrap. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, if you don't know what those full T's and C's are, that's fine. We've got the full thing for you. Just head on over to that handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find them waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we actually have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's EcoCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our live sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all questions asked after we wrap the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and you would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about your big win, and we'll get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the EcoCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going, so let's connect on social media. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content and resources right after we wrap the EcoCast today, be sure to subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and, hey, grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or a coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you'll find a link to do that right in your handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. And both you and your coworker or friend could win a prize, and we hold those drawings every month. So be sure to refer a friend, because it could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for all the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your handouts tab, fill out a quick application, and the Actual Tech crew will then match you with some vendors that we think you should probably be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you get to choose to join in, like surveys, test runs, new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you'll learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker on your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you all about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find out everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, prevent, and recover. This site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. Go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books will work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and as I said, they are completely free. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in that handouts tab as well. All right, well, we have covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get going.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Actual Tech Media's EcoCast. Today's topic is Cloud for Broadcasting, Understanding Methods for Securing Media Assets. Wow, a long title and a good one for today. I want to start by saying a big thank you for joining us. The EcoCast today features a couple of the most forward-thinking companies in this space, Fortinet and Sony. For those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Keith Ward. I'm a moderator with Actual Tech Media, and right there on the screen you see several of my fellow moderators. Jess, you have already met to welcome you here. And later on today, Scott Becker will also be joining us too for some fun Q&A. So, as always, on our EcoCast, the content will be great, but that's not all you'll get today. We have some fantastic prizes. We are giving away three, count them, three $300 Amazon gift cards for you. So stay tuned for that. All right, now it is time to really get going. Joining me here in just a moment for a discussion about securing media assets is Carl Paulson, CTO for the Business Media Unit of Diversified. Carl is all ready to go, so he and I are going to get on camera and we're going to get right to it. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. All right, I'm excited about this keynote because joining me is Carl Paulson, CTO for the Business Media Unit of the company Diversified. He's got a long and illustrious background in this particular industry, and he's going to talk to us today about cloud for broadcasting, understanding methods for securing media assets. Carl, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Our pleasure. So let's dive right in. Can you discuss the different data types that are used in media and entertainment these days?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of difference between what you might typically find in cloud applications such as databases and things like that are very, very common when doing like HR systems or data-based type of applications in the cloud. But in recent times, the industry has been moving more and more to putting their applications and their structures into the cloud. And one of the major differences between it is that the media type is now called unstructured, whereas structured data is very organized, spreadsheets and things like that in databases. They're easy to follow, they're relatively easy to use, although they can get very complex. But in an unstructured data form, there's a whole bunch of different considerations that have to happen. Particularly, data is now in a real-time nature. A television camera, a video camera, something like that is a real-time device. It has no structure to it. It has no starts and stops or ends and breaks or anything. So you have to understand how that works, which is quite different than traditional applications that you might find in AWS or Google or Azure or anybody else. So one of the things that makes it different is that there are many, many frequent calls to apps and things inside a system. So you have to be very, very careful of what that means. And you have to be obviously aware of getting things that might occur in and only through the internet. So,
absolutely. Now, given these concerns you've talked about, the unstructured nature of the data and all that, does that also then raise special security concerns for, protecting all of this type of data?
Absolutely. And this applies to both users and administrators, or those that are setting up your systems themselves. You must be very cautious of accessibility. Who has access to the system? Who has permissions to certain applications and when? How updates to your software are done? How you add on to software? Because everybody has a their own favorite special app they want to use, and so those need to be controlled very carefully. Anything that has a particular call to the internet must be avoided, and in some cases prohibited. And this is an administrative function where they make sure that they literally scrub the application and the apps themselves through a secondary management process, and be sure that any calls to the internet are moved into a different segment or different system, which is very tightly controlled, because once it gets out to the internet, all bets are off as to who has access to it at that point in time. One of the things that you have to consider is how you deal with collaboration. There are yields to the possible, and you must yield to possible risks, particularly things like scalable cloud storage, which is the ability to increase or decrease IT resources as they're needed to meet challenges and demands. Launching instances that appear in a database is another area you must be concerned with. You have to be sure that back-end management of access lists and operations, access control lists and things are very carefully managed and understood. And this we run across every time we put a system together that has any applications that might live in the cloud, which is more and more frequent, especially since the advent of COVID-19 and so forth. Things that run in a private subnet, for example, inside a virtual public cloud or VPC, which is a VPC is created in a public network within the public cloud, in a private network within a public cloud environment. VPMs offer secure access to those resources when they are remotely enabled, and VPCs also create a private network for resources such as databases, cache instances, or in any of the internal services. So, I mean, this can get very complex very quickly. Another thing that you have to be careful of are subscription-based services. Most of the software today, you're not buying one license, a perpetual license of any form. You're buying a monthly subscription or a yearly prescription. So you need to have verification. You have to be able to understand what login and relogin means, and that in some instances, some pieces of software actually use a heartbeat that goes out there and maintains that there's still a proper and authorized connection to it. Some of these authorizations really set a number of times that you can run the application. There might be that you've bought a license for 99 uses, but you want to check somewhere along 50 or 60 uses is all that's allowed before they'll kill the instance of that, and then it must require a new authentication in order to reuse it. And those are all why they're a pain in the side to deal with while you're operating. You're trying to edit something. They're very, very special and very protective of the systems and designed for intelligence rather than just the general application you might be running on a PC or a mobile device. Right. One of the interesting examples that someone was telling me about at a seminar was that, we'll call it the stupid practice example. They were sitting in the audience on the hotel wireless system, and it turned out that the corporate hotel kept their transactions on the same wireless network as allowed as the guests. So the guy used Wireshark, hacked into it, and started realizing that he could see every name, every date, every transaction, every credit card number, what room they were in, how long they were going to be in that room, with their driver's license and security information was all right there. And it turns out that artificial intelligence today could be put to use on this thing and hack every one of those things. And all of a sudden you've got a huge database of the clients that have been in that hotel. Not a smart idea. So those are the sort of things that you hear stories about and you go, well, think about that, because you could be doing that very easily in your corporate environment and not even realize it.
Exactly. So beyond those security concerns, which you've rightly called out, what are some other things that users and admins need to be cautious about, aware of when it comes to working in the cloud?
There's a two-word phrase called least privilege that is more and more commonly used now. Again, and if you're doing anything with security, you'll understand what this means pretty darn quickly. It manages things like how the software polls the application, how it creates, how it maintains its data, where it puts its data. And one of the ways that they control this least privilege, which sort of says what it is just by the two words, you give the least amount of privileges to the users that they need to have, and that's it. If they need something more, they contact the IT department, they get a temporary authorization, and they go on with that. Or maybe the IT department has developed what's called a single sign-on, or an SSO, which enables access to applications and resources within a particular or single domain. This controls who gets to see it, what their credentials are. They'll know who the credentials are. They can turn those credentials off if the employee leaves or if they do something really bad, or put them on probation. So these are the sorts of things that allow the facility to operate. Now, of course, if you're a broadcast type of person, you're going to be doing editing, you may be doing graphics, you may be doing calls to other locations and things like that. And your roles may have to change from editor to graphic designer, which could be a whole another set of tools. So they have the ability to do new roles or prescribe roles based upon what that person might be able to do or want to do. And that may mean that the person has to log out and request a new role or new location or new application, and then log back in. And then it provides another key important part about security, and that's a backup for missing employees. If someone leaves or can't be found or can't be located, that particular role could be prescribed to someone else in order to keep the company going and not hold them off until the person comes back from vacation or wherever they might be. So those are the sort of things that you really get into when you start planning your system out. And it's not easy stuff to do. You do have to have experience at it, and you leverage the help desks and those sorts of folks of the other people that create the applications at a lot of the time.
And that, what the IT folks call that principle of least privilege, now certainly it can cause some more friction in your processes, because there's more that you have to do, to get the access you need. But ultimately, most organizations really find out that it's worth it, just in the ability it gives them to lock down all their data and assets, more securely.
Yeah, they're really trying to create a one-way street here. They're not trying to withhold your ability to do any things, but there's a lot of coding and a lot of things. That if you buy a piece of software, you have to wait for an email that's got the key management or the key code to the software. You have to license that. And in enterprise level systems, they have what are called rotating keys that work in real time. They have policies that might expire at the end of an hour, and if provided they haven't been told to not renew it, it'll automatically renew it, so that flexibility in the fluidness of working shouldn't be diminished by the fact that somebody's trying to put a noose around the neck of the system and hold it down. Two-factor authorization, of course, is another thing we all deal with today, or should be dealing with. You dial up your bank account. You don't want just anybody to keep trying and hacking it, because a 4 or 5 letter word or key password can be hacked in about 20 seconds or less, no matter what it is. It doesn't take that long to cycle through every combination of letter and number in the keyboard to try and get at it. So one of the other things that goes on, and this is at a very high level, at an enterprise level, is what they call regular penetration testing, even to the point that they simulate attacks and they practice how to mitigate issues related to people trying to hack the system. So, they're pretty broad, pretty general principles, but just being aware of them will help your organization have success.
Exactly. Yeah. And securing media assets, Carl, has really never been harder, because they can be distributed anywhere these days, and you got to start planning right away and assume you're not safe anymore in this new age. Carl Paulson, thank you so much for a really fun discussion of media assets and how to keep them secure these days. I appreciate you dropping some knowledge on us and giving us some important warnings. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Take care.
All right. Thank you so much for the chat, Carl. I enjoyed that a lot. We haven't had Carl on as a keynoter before, and he really was great. So a little bit of audience participation time for everyone on. We are now developing our calendar our webinar schedule for 2024, and we want to know what you want to see. Let us know in the comments in that questions tab what you want to know more about. What technologies are you most interested in? This is important for us because we take all of this into account when creating our schedule. So this is your chance to help shape the content that we're bringing you for the coming year. So remember to put your questions in your comments in the questions tab, and you can keep those comments coming throughout the entire event. It doesn't have to end once the once the slide is gone. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time to do that. We're just grateful that you want to be a partner with us on helping to set the schedule for 2024. Okay, so keep those coming. In the meantime, we also have a poll question for you. Lots of audience participation. We want to know how quickly you'll be implementing or updating your IT solutions. Is it going to be happening soon? Is there a longer time frame? Is it a year, 6 months? Is it 2 years? Is it longer than that? Are you at the beginning of some super huge project? Let us know. In the poll, vote in that, and I'm going to leave it up a little bit longer. And I want to thank everyone who's voting. A lot of you still are not sure, so maybe that's one reason you're here today, right? In second place right now is 6 to 12 months, and the other two are continuing to see a roughly equal uptake there. Okay, thanks again for voting, and thanks for participating with us. I really appreciate that. All right, so it is now time for the main event of the day. Our first presentation of the EcoCast is from Fortinet. Presenting for Fortinet today is John McDonough. He is Senior Cloud Architect and a Cloud DevOps Engineer. And joining John for some great Q&A at the end is moderator Scott Becker, who I mentioned before. John, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. I will now turn it over to you.
Thank you. I am John McDonough, a Senior Cloud Architect, DevOps Engineer at Fortinet, and I'm happy to be here to be discussing cloud security, our cloud security portfolio, and just give an overview of that and how that may, help you start utilizing the cloud or utilizing the cloud better, and ensure that your applications, your data, and just your cloud posture itself is secure. And so, the first thing I'd probably want to talk about is how we got to the cloud, right? Or how maybe you got to the cloud, and whether it was an unexpected event. Recently we had a worldwide unexpected event, and it forced a lot of companies to the cloud, or it was a cost event or an infrastructure event, something that required you to look at the cloud and start adopting the cloud as the place where you're going to have your infrastructure, have your data, base your applications. And so how did you get there? And whether you looked at the cloud from a cloud first perspective using cloud native tools, or you lifted and shifted out of your data center into the cloud, or you are utilizing a hybrid cloud. These are all places where Fortinet can play a part in helping secure that environment. So there's a couple of challenges, and there's challenges on premises, and there's challenges in the cloud as well. And I believe, and I think Fortinet believes, that in the cloud there's a lot more vulnerability because there's a bigger attack surface. There's a lot more vectors into your environment if you don't properly secure it. And so, when you are making this journey into the cloud, or you're already there and you're trying to secure it, a lot of things that we see that result in vulnerabilities, security vulnerabilities, comes down to, a lot of it's misconfiguration, right? Not understanding the service, not understanding what avenues you have to protect that data, and not understanding what you need to protect. So it's not just the data going over the wire. It's not just the packet of information. It's all these other surfaces that provide an attacker access or are interesting to an attacker. So in our 2023 cybersecurity report, one of the biggest things that we see as a challenge is lack of qualified staff. They don't have the training. They're network engineers or they're application engineers or developers, et cetera, and they're within the organization and they've been working from a on-premises type of data center, thought, and they don't really understand what happens differently in the cloud. It's not just I'm running this VM in the cloud now, or I'm utilizing this service in the cloud now. All the tools and capabilities and experience that they may have utilized before don't always transition 100%, or don't always give the same, look into their environment. So there's the lack of qualified staff. There's the visibility into the things that are happening in the cloud. And then there's this consistent security policy, how you were securing in the cloud versus how you secure on premises. These are different. And I didn't forget about compliance, but compliance in itself doesn't necessarily have a security, a security tangent to it or security affiliation to it, other than you want to make sure that you are compliant in securing your data, or you are compliant in what data you are allowed to put into the cloud. So we do help, with that as well. But I think what really comes down to for a lot of organizations is how do they have staff that are qualified? How do they get visibility into what's happening to the cloud? These tools are different. The portals are different. If you have a hybrid cloud approach, you might be looking at one cloud provider and able to look at network traffic or security capabilities in that cloud provider and not understand how that works in another cloud provider or another. So you may have regional, requirements to use one cloud provider over another. And maybe you can't be consistent globally, if that's the kind of reach your organization has, with staying on a single cloud provider. And the other thing that we see is that, it's not just these things on the left that are challenges, but the other challenge is that we're just really concerned, right? The majority of cybersecurity professionals are just concerned at cloud security overall. And so concern is great, but it's not the plan. It's not it's the driver to, get things secured, but it's not enough. You have to delve deeper into what's going on out there. But everybody's concerned about cloud security because it's very important. So when you think about moving into the cloud, there's a lot of things that have to happen that you may not necessarily be aware of. What is it that is happening in the cloud? What is it that you're exposing your data or your applications or you're opening that up to? And how many different, attack surfaces or vectors are there into your environment? And so, we all think about the cloud initially. I shouldn't say maybe we all think about it, but I know that I initially thought about it as, well, I have an application running in the cloud and data has to go back and forth that application. But it really is much more than that. It's not just securing the data. It's not just providing consistent access to the data or the application, but it is, protecting the vulnerabilities that application may have that you either didn't know about because nobody knew about them, perhaps a 0-day or, something that was just exposed, an application that you're utilizing from another vendor, and that has a security issue. Data that's sitting out there in your cloud environment on a storage device or in a cloud provider database, all those things are beyond the scope what people initially think of from just having security in the communications of the data. And then because it is a lot of things, we want to look at automation as a way to have consistency across those policies, consistency across those applications, across the clouds. And security automation in and of itself can provide a vector for, for security issues or security breaches. And, as we move up this column of things and devices or methodologies, each one of them has their own security implications. And of course, Fortinet has methods and applications and capabilities to manage those things. So, what we look at from a best approach for cloud success is the process, the people, and the solutions, right? So people, of course, training and augmentation of those people, the process, have best practices, have good design, employ things like DevOps and DevSecOps, where before you put your application into the cloud, you've checked the infrastructure where that application is going to run. You've checked the code of that application. And then you've actually tried to do penetration testing on that application as well before you even put it into production. And then the solutions themselves, how do we compare? How do we, fit and, with other providers that are out there? And how do we provide a better, or perhaps the most, we hope, the most acceptable, or the most, what's the right way to say it? The most desired set of solutions. So we're talking about securing an application on any cloud, but realize that the application, the data, is more than just the code or the thing that you interact with. It's the data, it's the storage, it's the network, it's all those things that come together. And so when we, Fortinet, look at security from a, overall perspective, this doesn't have to be the cloud, but, we look at it from a work from anywhere perspective, a hybrid or multi-cloud perspective, a access, SD-WAN as a consistency of access, SASE as a security at the edge, and then zero trust, which a lot of people are hearing about lately and a lot of people are talking about, is something that is forefront for us, because we realize now that, it's not always going to be a VPN access. It's not always going to be a secured network access. It's going to be access from, whether it's a vendor or a device in a coffee shop or over from a plane. And what zero trust does for you is it ensures that that accessor, whether it be a device or a person, that accessor of your environment in the cloud has been limited to just that. It's a consistent and continually happening posture check of that entity that's accessing the environment. So zero trust is a big deal, and you're going to be hearing a lot more about that. But think about that from the cloud perspective. It makes it even becomes much more something that should be in the forefront of what you're thinking about. And then the technologies that we're working with, operational technologies, IoT devices, think about sensors, think about, devices that are out there in the environment that are constantly taking data and, readings from different things in their ecosystem and submitting them back to you. Well, you want to ensure that that data is not coming in compromised in some way, because, maybe you're making decisions from those IoT devices on how to, open or close a valve, or how to speed up or slow down a process, or, how much can be in this environment. Maybe it's weather based, or there's a lot of things that are happening there. And so our cybersecurity mesh that we, have from Fortinet is all those four pillars. And then right there in the center, you see the FortiGuard Threat Intelligence. And that FortiGuard Threat Intelligence is just the huge component of what Fortinet has to offer, from a, known attacks, new attacks. It's an AI based, it gets billions of bits of information every day that gets disseminated out to our environments, and helps, further secure and enhance the security in your cloud environment. And when we look at our mesh compared to what Gartner says is a good mesh, we believe that, they have a very similar look about them. Our, items on the right-hand side comprise those items that are on the left-hand side. And so we believe that we are really in the forefront of cloud security technology, even how, Gartner would describe what cloud security technology should encompass. Just a little bit more on FortiGuard. FortiGuard is not just, here's a new virus, or here's a new thing that happened, and alert your devices or alert your Fortinet products to this new thing. It is really, a whole bunch of services, a whole host of services and capabilities that can be utilized to better secure your environment. So it's not just, here's a new virus. It's not just that. It's more than that. And it's constantly being updated because it is constantly looking not just at the hundreds of thousands of devices that we have out there, where customers can willingly participate in helping us better secure their environments. It's also looking in and understanding the newest and greatest threats that are out there and ensuring that our products are up to date with those. Okay, so back to securing any application on any cloud, right? So we understood earlier, or I talked earlier about why you move to the cloud, and what those things that are out there in the cloud that need to be secured, and the various ways that you can secure them. Whether your data center or your virtualized data center or your campus branch is connecting to those applications, we have that transport security we have to talk about, or you have to worry about. But then we also have the applications and data and workloads that are in the cloud that have to be managed as well. Whether they're SaaS applications that you're subscribing to, or they're applications that are integrated into the cloud provider environment, or they're applications that are VMs that you're running in the cloud. Right. So we break it down into this idea of build, deploy, and run. So on the build side, you have your software development lifecycle. In the deploy, you have your secure network layer, and you also have your secure infrastructure. It's there's a bit of a hybrid there, or a crossover, but the deploy is, our network environment. How do we connect? How do we move that data? The secure cloud infrastructure, now we have our application out there, and are we not just looking at the data, but are we looking at the storage? Are we looking at malicious or suspicious behavior? Are we looking at a bunch of different things that could be compromising our data out there? And then we move, further to the right, and we have products that manage, secure access. And then if we have the ability, if we've done great, how do we scale up? And so the products that kind of go along with that are FortiDevSec, FortiDAST to look at your code, our FortiGate next generation firewall to secure that data, our cloud network, or cloud native protection with FortiCNP, and then we have our FortiWeb that secures your applications and your APIs, and then our FortiADC, which would help scale up. And then around all of those applications, we have Zero Trust, we have FortiSASE, there's FortiCASB. There's so many products. I think we're at the somewhere around 50 to 55 different products that we have, and more than half of them have cloud support as well. So, not to spend too much time here, because these are just the products that we talked about, but we're protecting the data and the applications. We're protecting the security posture of the cloud and the applications that we're putting out there. We're protecting the network traffic, and then we're protecting any kind of SaaS applications. So this is our cloud security portfolio. There's the FortiGate, and again, not too deep on this one, but the FortiGate is our #1 cloud product. We're protecting data. We're supplying SD-WAN. We're creating IPS and IDS. We have a multitude of things that come on the FortiGate, that converge on the FortiGate, and can all be managed in an overall way with the FortiManager. Now, the FortiGate has some evolutions to it. In AWS, we have the FortiGate Cloud Native Firewall, where you just manage the FortiGate, but not the FortiGate VMs. It's something that you can subscribe to and then utilize that as a native application in the cloud. In AWS, we have the Azure vWAN integrated FortiGates. Again, this is something that's managed. It's a managed application that runs inside an Azure vWAN. So you manage the FortiGates through FortiManager or directly through the FortiGate interface, but you don't have to manage the VM that's behind it. Then there's the FortiWeb. So we're protecting the data that's going back and forth with the FortiGate, but now we're protecting the application with FortiWeb. And again, FortiWeb, it can protect your application from intrusions, from SQL injections, from the OWASP top 10 security threats, but as well, it can also protect your APIs. And again, I didn't mention on the FortiGate, but here we have FortiGuard services, and it's just another way to continually make sure those FortiWebs and those FortiGates are always up to date with the latest information related to threats. Cloud native security is where, or FortiCMP, the cloud native protection, is where we take the cloud provider's information, whether it's network traffic logs or security logs or suspicious behavior, like Microsoft Defender, AWS, network information that we can get back. Similarly, from GCP, we get all this and we aggregate it into a score. And then we can look at those scores and create from those scores a risk resource index. And from that risk resource index, we can tell you how vulnerable you may be, or excuse me, not risk resource risk insight. So we take all this information coming from the cloud provider, and then we aggregate it, we weight it, and we look for issues within those things that the cloud provider is providing to us, and we give you back this resource risk insight, and we could show you from a score percentage how vulnerable your products or your application or your data may be in the cloud. So we have these things that protect the data. We have these things that protect the application. We have the methodology for looking at the cloud security posture with FortiCMP, but we also have ways to integrate into the cloud provider capabilities themselves, whether it's the management and automation layer, the threat intelligence and response layer, the connectivity in SD-WAN layer, and the application and workloads layer. We are fully integrated and meshed with, I know there's a lot of icons here, a lot of pictures of what we have in the different cloud providers, but we are fully integrated. And it's not just how we understand those things that work in the cloud, but we also have connectors within our various products that let us connect to the cloud and pull that data in and make decisions based on that data and be dynamically responsive to things that are happening in the cloud environment, and use those things that are happening in the cloud environment to either change the cloud environment, change our policy, and make updates to the environment to better secure your product. Again, more connectors or integrations, not just with the cloud providers, but with entities that interact with the cloud providers, whether it be GitHub or HashiCorp or Cisco. I mean, yes, we do have integrations with Cisco because we know to not integrate with them would be not beneficial for us. And finally, one of the last things to talk about is how can you utilize these products in the cloud. We do have pay-as-you-go options, and you can pay hourly or monthly. We have options where you can do a multi-year purchase, or you can buy a license from that covers for a single or multi-year. We have private offers, and our newest offering for consumption in the cloud is our FortiFlex component, where you can buy points and utilize those points to create licenses and activate and deactivate those licenses as you need them. FortiFlex, it allows you to scale and change and pick different support packages, etc. Definitely something that a lot of customers are keying into because it is very consistent with cloud consumption models. And finally, the last thing to talk about is that not only do we advocate for training and experience within your staff to ensure that you're fully secure, but we also do provide cloud consulting services to help you start that journey, enhance the journey that you're already on, and hopefully this was of benefit for everybody out there, and we look forward to hearing from you. So thanks so much, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, John. Great presentation. And we do have some questions coming in here. First one, what do you believe are the current cloud and cloud security challenges?
Hopefully it was evident in what I talked about in the, in the presentation here, but it really is, you need staff that understands the cloud, or you need to be able to augment that staff, so we do have our consulting services. So that's important. It's lack of visibility, understanding where that data is, and understanding, how do you become aware of how your applications are running in the cloud, who has access to them, who has accessed them, what is your security posture in the cloud, and then consistency. It's so common that, we see a customer put something into the cloud from one provider, they had it in one provider and then they put it in another provider, and they didn't understand that other cloud providers security capabilities and how they integrate. And so you just have to be consistent with your policies across the cloud. You have to make sure that you really do understand what you're doing in the cloud. And then, overall, you want to make sure you understand what's happening in your cloud environment.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of solid advice there. Next one here, they're asking, how does DevOps, DevSecOps, and cloud services change the way you design, build, deploy, and operate online systems and secure infrastructure?
It's a common, misconception that, if I just do penetration testing on my application, that's enough, right? And surely it's a good step towards being secure. But what DevOps and DevSecOps allows you to do is not just do penetration testing on your application before you put it in the cloud and while it's in the cloud. Like, just because you've done penetration testing on your application and it's like, okay, I got a 95% secure, I'm good, like that's within my tolerances. You should also make sure you regularly do that penetration testing, because as new threats become available, and they get integrated into the products, you want to make sure you're testing your application for that type of attack. So you do that through some, DevOps type of processes where you have things that are triggered or things that are done on a schedule through a DevOps type of pipeline that goes and looks at your application, does the penetration testing. But then you should also use the DevSecOps, which is literally code scanning and ensuring that the infrastructure code that you use to build the environment where your application lives is secure, and that the code that you've used to build your application is also secure. So that DevSecOps is a really key component. And if you think about the DevOps pipeline overall, if you're checking the code that builds your infrastructure, and then you're checking the code that is your application, and then you're doing penetration testing on the application, you should be able to have a high confidence level in your risk ratings that come back from those products before you even put your application out into production or out into the general availability. So those are key things that you should be looking at, is checking that before production, and then consistently rechecking it, whether it's weekly, monthly, as our products update with threat analysis from FortiGuard, then you can benefit from that by checking your application and your code again.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you. And thanks for that question. Next one here. How do you deal with the ever-growing number of devices?
ZTNA, that's a Zero Trust Network Access. That is the way to do this. ZTNA is going to be the number one thing that is going to allow you to constantly check the person, the device, the access, basically the posture, consistently and constantly check the posture of the user or the device, or the methodology of access that is being utilized, so that regardless of what the device coming in is, if they meet the criteria to be able to access that environment, then you allow that access. So ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access, you're going to be hearing a lot about that.
Okay. And this last one, this is a big one. This is a question on everybody's mind, especially if they're thinking about moving to the cloud. Does the cloud really provide an opportunity for cost savings?
If you do it right. Just because you have a data center on premises with that you have a server in, it's not just, that, oh, we've already paid for that and, it doesn't cost us anything, above and beyond that. Of course it does. And, people who are managing that, realize that there's, a huge cost related to having something on premises. When you move to the cloud, the costs are different in some areas, and they're the same in others. But you still, you're paying for the compute, you're paying for the network accesses, you're paying for all these things. It's metered in a different way. It might be the number of packets going through. It might be the number of CPU cores that you utilize. It may be the number of disks and the type of disk that you utilize. All cloud providers provide sorry for the double there, but all cloud providers have methods for cost savings, whether it's a spot instance or it's a reserved instance or it's a commitment agreement. All these things are there. It's up to you to really delve into what those cost savings can be for your application, and latch onto them. And I think the answer is yes. There is a real avenue for cost savings there. You have to look at the cloud provider. You have to look at the vendor of the things that you're putting in the cloud, and work with them to understand how they can achieve those cost saving goals for you or with you.
All right. Yeah. The simple answer then yes. Appreciate it. So it looks like we're about running up on time here, but if people want to get started with Fortinet, what would you recommend?
Certainly Fortinet.com, Fortinet.com/cloud. And that would be the way to get going with it. We do have some free training out there. We do have a program called the NSC program. And the NSC program is something that you can log into and get some free training up to a particular level. And then if you want to pursue it after that, there's a multitude of training programs that are out there. But certainly do that as well on our cloud providers. And I do know on our Azure cloud, we do provide free test drives. And what that means is that somebody can actually go and deploy a FortiGate or a FortiWeb, and they can run it for a few hours. It doesn't cost them anything. They don't have to even have a subscription or anything like that in a cloud environment, but they can run that, and we have guided scenarios that they can go through, whether it's to, how would you protect a website, allow traffic in and out of that website on the FortiGate side, and then on the FortiWeb side, how would you protect against SQL injection? So things that, get you started on cloud security, absolutely free. It's the Azure FortiGate or the Azure FortiWeb test drives. So certainly go check those out.
Okay, very cool. Well, John, thank you so much for being here and for bringing us up to speed on Fortinet. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Well, John, thank you for that great presentation and terrific job, Scott, leading the Q&A there. You know what the best part of that whole thing, that presentation was for me? Seeing John's electronic drums in the background. Now, I'm a mediocre drummer myself, but I always like seeing those. All right, so it is now time for another poll question. Let us know what additional resources you'd like to see from Fortinet. And I would also like to remind everyone about the handouts. We have a link from Fortinet where you can get more detail on their solution that was discussed today. And with that, we're going to give away our first gift card of the session today. There's three $300 gift cards. The winner of the first $300 Amazon gift card for today is Stephen Crum from Illinois. Congratulations to you, Stephen. We will be in touch very soon about getting you your prize. And now it is time for our next presentation to kick off in the EcoCast. This session is from Sony, and presenting for Sony is David Rosen, Vice President of Cloud Applications. David, it is great to see you here today. Are you ready to go?
I am ready. Let's do this.
Outstanding. I am handing you the virtual mic right now so you can take it away.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking some time to listen to what I hope will be an informative session. My name is David Rosen, and I'm the Vice President of Cloud Applications, and I'm responsible for our C Media Cloud business. We'll talk a little bit about what that is and how it is important and relates to security. And then we'll open it up for some questions. So C Media Cloud is a SaaS-based system entirely built in the cloud. It's built on top of Amazon Web Services public cloud. And it's meant for creative professionals and large media organizations and small media organizations to give them the intent to collaborate, store, and manage the things that are most important to them, which is their content. So the intent is allow people to interact with their content no matter where they are. So not letting geography or location get in the way. And when we built this, and we built it a long time ago, it seems, almost 10 years ago, we were very early in the space before people thought the cloud was actually going to be a place people would trust for their media assets. But when we started from the very beginning, we knew that security was going to be of paramount interest to people. A little history, we were born out of Sony Pictures. There was a group of us that were developing systems and supporting workflows across motion pictures, television, and home entertainment. And we saw a real need for this in the industry as a whole. And so we started a company called Sony Media Cloud Services with the sole intent to bring really key important features that are needed in the media and entertainment industry to people globally. And from the outset, we wanted to move away from a situation that you see sort of depicted on the left, where there's a lot of great solutions in the marketplace. They're very good at what they do, but they do one thing. And as a result, content has to move from location to location and system to system. And that's troublesome for a couple of reasons. One is it takes time and people's energy to be responsible for moving content. And number two, it's a real security concern, because every location you are moving that content is yet another location that has to be protected and is a potential for a leak. So our intention from the beginning was to move to a scenario much more like the picture on the right, which is content is in a single location, but it's accessible by all the right people that should have access to it. And this is regardless of what part of the media lifecycle they're actually participating in. This is a very unique concept because originally and still today, in many cases, there's a lot of silos in any organization, not just in media entertainment, but there's a lot of silos. And as a result, nobody really wants to work with anybody else. And so they need to make sure they've got control over all aspects of what they have. So what we developed was something that had the content in a central location, but still gave people the autonomy they needed to interact with the content the way that they needed to and to administer it the way that they needed to. So since this is a security-focused event that we're having right now, and really the intent is to understand how we can secure media assets across the media lifecycle, a few things that are important to the way we do things. One, we have reliable cloud storage. So we're built on top of AWS. I think everybody's familiar with them at this point. Also supports we call it BYOS, or bring your own storage. And this means that a customer can access the content stored in their own AWS account. So they don't have to do that if they don't have the will or the acumen or the resources to manage content in their own AWS account. We can certainly do that. We do that for a vast majority of our customers who just don't want to deal with that burden. But for especially our larger customers, they already have a presence in AWS, and they have the resources to be able to set up buckets and make sure that they are being properly configured. And so we want to support that, again, because one of our key tenets is that least location principle. We don't want content to have to be moved into other locations just so people can use the tools that they want to use. And then it's also very important to have the right credentials. How does a potential customer know that they can trust you? And really the best way to show that is to have the certifications that the industry can trust. So before we even launched, we had become ISO 27001 certified. And this is very important. It ensures not just that we are managing our technical infrastructure correctly. That's vital and that's important. But it also ensures that organizationally, we've got the processes in place to ensure everybody is aware of how content needs to be managed and handled, what type of information can be shared, who can access it, etc. So it's a very extensive program that requires multiple audits every year and hundreds of different security controls that we need to adhere to. So that's very important, and it's something that's core to our overall security platform. In addition, everything that is in C, whether it's coming into C, whether it's stored at rest, or if it's going out of C, is encrypted. So there's end-to-end encryption, which is also very important. From an access control model, we took a very interesting approach to this. So, everybody wants as granular security access as they can get. And that is important because you don't want to over provision access to somebody who doesn't need it. That's just a problem waiting to happen. But after studying the industry for many, many years, we came to learn that having an incredible amount of granularity, while it's fantastic for dealing with edge cases, makes it sometimes very challenging from an administration standpoint for that 80 or 90% of the use cases that are out there. So we put a lot of time and effort into thinking, how can we simplify the administration and the controls to content within C so that we're making it very simple to provision just the right access that people need. And so that was really important to us from the get-go. And we took a pretty unique approach to solving that problem. I'll be honest, in early days, it took a little bit of time for people to come around to this because they were very used to, a very granular set of permissions that requires a full-time administrator, not only to, understand, but to be on top of constantly as people roll in and roll out of the organization, which is very common in media and entertainment and productions. Because you have a lot of freelance workers, you have a lot of vendors that are working on the projects. So there's a lot of churn of people coming into and out of the system. And so that burden administratively is very challenging. And so again, we took an approach where we simplify it to what 80% of the people need so that it's very simple to administer. And then at the same time, we provide the granular access controls when they need it. You can keep anything from a large feature film to a small, ad spot. There's a lot of different people involved, and content has to be shared securely. And so that's one of the things that's done most often in C. And we make that very simple, and we provide a lot of security around that. Whereas most of the time you want to keep people in a single system, sometimes they do have to take that content out. And so when they are taking that content out, you want to understand who did it, when they did it, and you want to ensure that the people who were doing that are the people you thought they were. So we have secure sign-in, obviously, but we also have the ability to set expiration for when people have access to certain content. We have advanced security features around watermarking. So you can have a visual watermark that actually is overlaid or burned into the video itself. And we also have invisible watermarking, which is forensic. And that enables much more of a reactive situation where if you do actually, unfortunately, have a leak, you can look inside of that content and determine whether or not there is a mark that came from our system. And if it is, then you can tie that to the person and the point in time when that content came out of the system. So that's just a few of the things that are core to our overall security posture. And one of the things, basically, these are table stakes any longer to get the media organizations to have the full confidence to manage their content with any solution provider. I mean, the content is their intellectual property. It is the business they are in, and obviously very, very important to them. So just highly to give you a sense of how C is used, it's all the way from the very beginning of the content lifecycle to the end. And so the beginning starts, oftentimes in production where content is being shot. And again, this can be for episodic content that you might see on one of your favorite channels or OTT providers, or it could be feature film that you're going to see like one of those, or in a theater. It can also be small independent productions by small production companies. Like I said, ad spots, trailers, any type of creative work. And it typically will start with the camera. So there are solutions that will enable content to go directly from the camera into C. So you're sort of eliminating a step where that content has to be copied somewhere else. But you also can have content requested from other people wherever they are. So via a secure link, people can contribute content into C. And then that content's going to be captured. It can be transformed into very usable formats where people can interact with it over the web. Content can be uploaded through our mobile applications, through desktop applications, web applications. And then once it's there, one of the core features that people are taking advantage of is the ability to review that content. So whether that is live, where people are watching the same thing at the same time and they're circling things and they're adding their comments and feedback, or they're doing it in an ad hoc basis. It's one of the key features of collaboration that C provides. And then secure delivery is core in a lot of different parts of the lifecycle, whether it's in the middle of it, where you need to deliver content to a vendor who is going to be maybe creating dub tracks or subtitles, or they need to create a trailer, giving the ability to send that content to them in a secure manner, ensuring only the right people are getting it, and very importantly, tracking every interaction with that. So there's very detailed access logs. Every time somebody touches a piece of content or interacts with it, it's logged and it's reportable. And then eventually you get to your final assets and you need to archive that content. So this becomes very critical when people need to come back to that content in a future period in time. And being able to find that, search for it, and know that it's there and accessible at any given point in time makes C a very valuable solution for a lot of our customers. And then if we take a look just to give a picture of how some customers may use us, ITN Productions, one of our favorite customers. They've been with us for a very long time, I think all the way back in 2014, maybe a year after we launched. And they've really embraced C, not only from a user interface standpoint, where they have all of their team using it in different ways, but also directly integrated into some of their own in-house systems through our API. So they've got over 500 workspaces at this point in time, and a workspace is basically a place where you bring people and files together. So it's really grown over time. But they had a lot of challenges because they've got productions that were happening all over the place, and had for every different production, a different way to receive their content, to organize their content. So they were looking for a central solution, and that's what they found with C. And then they leveraged a lot of the automation. I didn't talk too much about that in the earlier slide, but C does provide a lot of media processing capabilities. So transforming content from one format into another, running AI services against that content to provide rich metadata, being able to clip out parts of content that you want. If you've got a 30-minute piece and you only need a minute of that content, being able just to take that minute is not only cost effective, but it saves you a ton of time because not everybody has infinite bandwidth. And as a result of the outcome, they now have a central repository where all of the content across their productions is being stored, and they've got a way for people to have access to that content from anywhere, regardless of their location. And again, they're using this across their television properties. They've got news syndication and also sports programs as well. Okay, and with that, I think that's the end of the presentation. We didn't want to go too much into the details here, but thought that we could give you a little taste of what that is so that you have a more visual experience of C. So I'll show a quick demonstration, and then we'll open it up for questions and hopefully have a good conversation. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen. Just give me one moment. Okay. So I'm logged into C at this point in time, and as a user, I'm invited into workspaces. So you heard me say that ITN has over 500 of these. That's because they create them for different productions. but as a user, I'm invited into multiple workspaces. And these spaces can be owned by different companies. And this is a really important part of the way C is built, because we understand that there are, for instance, a producer may be working for Amazon Studios one day and Sony Pictures the next. So they have their own identity within C, but they can be invited into other company spaces. And that's a really important aspect to what we have. There's single sign-on so that customers can leverage their same user credentials that they use to get their email. That's obviously helpful because it's one less password that they have to remember. And I think we all know that there's password fatigue out there, and password fatigue leads to weak passwords, which is not a good thing. So SSO is a really important part of the experience. We also have two-factor authentication. So the owner can control whether or not 2FA needs to be turned on. People will do that sometimes for more secure content, but ironically, there are situations where the most important people want to be burdened the least. And so you've got executive producers and directors who can't be bothered with those things. And so sometimes they'll be turned off, and we give administrators the ability to do that. And so if we jump into one of these, I can kind of give you a sense of some of the additional security concepts that exist in C and that are important for any media organization who needs to secure content. So first and foremost, there's an activity stream. And I mentioned this earlier. Any interaction with any piece of content is going to be logged. So, who did it, when they did it, whether content was shared or downloaded. As I scroll down here, I can find a piece of content that looks like I downloaded it a few times, I viewed it, somebody else viewed it, and you've got this going back all the way to the beginning of when this asset was created in C. So having an audit trail is important. And by the way, all of that is reportable. So all the analytics that are captured in C can be reported on by administrators. After you've securely logged in, you might want to be sharing content with people. So for instance, I can take this piece of content and I want to share that out. We've got a neat thing called media boxes. So I can say, share this in a media box, and I can control who has access to this. I can make it secure. This is going to require that somebody logs in with a C account. I can make it protected. This means they don't have to have a C account, but they are going to have to use whatever password I create for them along with the link. And then public is the least secure option. So we do give administrators the ability to allow these or disallow these on any given space. So if you have a sensitive project and you don't ever want anybody to send a public or even protected media box, you can control that as an admin. But there are cases where you do want it to be public and you just want to send that out and all they need is the link. So you've got full control over that. I'll go ahead and make this secure, and I'll put somebody on the list who has access to it. And then you can control what they can do with it. So you can let them download the content if you want, or maybe they can just view it. I can actually watermark this content. So if I look at the watermark template, I can put this right in the middle. I can change some of this. Hello there. And this means when this is sent, they're actually going to see a visual watermark on top of that content. So I can save that. And I'll come back to this in a second, but I can also apply forensic watermarking. So forensic watermarking is going to put an invisible watermark directly into the video itself. And that means whoever downloads it is going to get a unique watermark just for them. We're going to know that they downloaded it, when they downloaded it. And then if that file were ever to get leaked, it would be able to be tracked back to that person. So lots of security options that we have here. I'll go ahead and just create this. And you can send that directly to the people that you sent it to. They'll receive an email. It'll tell them what they have access to. I'm just going to go ahead and open this, which is going to actually open in a different tab. So let me see if I can do this, put it in the same tab. Otherwise, I won't be sharing with you all. Magic. And so now what they're going to see is, first off, a warning saying, hey, because I did set that watermark, this is sensitive content. They know who I am. They know what IP I'm accessing it from. So it's saying, hey, be careful. We know who you are. So I'll go ahead and click proceed. And I only have access to this one file that was shared with me. I can go ahead and open that up and I can play it. And there's that watermark that was important to the content owner that they sent out. So I'm watching that. I can see a little information about it if I need to. But I'm going to go ahead and let's go back into the workspace, because one of the important things that I mentioned earlier was tracking. So if I go into the workspace from, now in the activity stream, we can see that, and it knows this because I was already logged in, but it says I watched this in this media box and I watched 15%. So just a really important way to highlight that every touch point of the content is being recorded and stored and is available from an analytics standpoint. Okay, there's a number of other security features, but I want to save time for some Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there and stop sharing. And then I'd love to open it up for some Q&A.
All right. David, what a great presentation. Thank you so much. Some excellent knowledge. I should point out, it is not directly related, but I love Sony cameras. I have several of them in my office right now. They're the A-series cameras that so many of us use, and they are just fabulous. So anyway, just had to throw that little plug in there. But you are ready for some questions. Yeah, absolutely. Those A-series, they're legendary. Okay, so first question for you today, David. Paul wants to know, does Sony's solution incorporate zero trust to protect remote media assets handled by vendors, contractors, etc.?
In a way, we do. So the media box, where we've got the ability to restrict who has access to that content. The most secure way that we can provide that access is through a secure login. So they will require a login. Absent that login, they get zero access to that content that is being shared. And one other thing that's really important to understand is that C is a SaaS-based system. So all of the underlying infrastructure is managed, maintained, and supported by Sony. So there is no external access by customers. And as much as I hate to say this, sometimes that is the most or the largest security threat, right? When you're allowing access to the underlying infrastructure. So we tightly control that within our team, and only a very small portion of the team does have access to that content. So the external touch points are really through our application, and the application is going to control that security again through secure login, and limited or least privilege model, as well as encryption throughout the entire lifecycle.
Okay, that's great. That sounds like it'll help with those supply chain attacks, which are so common nowadays too. So Adam wants to know, how are sustained access speeds to video assets maintained to multiple locations? And related, will each location for editing require gigabit level connections, or are there enhancements? So kind of a multi-part, any enhancements to help with that particular bandwidth sort of issue?
Those are great questions. I'm going to answer the last one because I remember that one, and then I'm going to ask you to repeat the first one. Okay. So the second one is bandwidth related. So for instance, and this is great, oftentimes you'll have editors that want to be able to access the content that was uploaded, and they can do so. Obviously, that can require a lot of bandwidth if you are trying to pull down, these very heavy, high bitrate source files. So bottom line is C is solving for transfer of those files in one way. I mean, it can't change physics, so it's not going to be able to go any faster than your internet. But we do have file transfer acceleration built into the platform using a technology called Aspera, and that's going to minimize the latency. And uses a particular protocol that is far less chatty than traditional HTTP. So that's part number one. That's an enabling technology that's going to allow editors, or anybody for that matter, to retrieve content as fast as their internet connection will allow. Now, some people, and the question was, do they need gigabit level
Right.
internet to be able to access this. And I can tell you, I don't have that. The demo that I was just showing you, I've got about 15 megabits per second. I live in sort of a canyon, and there's no good internet options. But clearly you saw that I can interact with that content, and I don't need to do that. One of the other things that C does is automatically creates frame accurate proxies of every piece of video that is uploaded into C. And that enables those editors to quickly, if they need to, or their bandwidth limited, edit off of those proxies. And then later, when they have a higher bandwidth, or there's another way for them to get that high-res content for their conform, they can pull that high-res content down. So proxies are one of those things that are an enabling technology for those situations where people don't have the bandwidth that they might need.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. We have time, I think, for just one more question today, David, and I'm sure Sony will be following up with some of the other questions that are coming in. That just shows how engaged everyone was. But so here's an interesting one about emerging threats. What are some of the emerging security threats targeting cloud-based media production, and how do companies stay prepared to counter them?
That's a good question. What I will say is the most feared threat that we have seen in our customer base and in the industry is really a ransomware attack. And this isn't new, but we are seeing these happen more and more often. Why is it so feared? Obviously, if the content that is associated with the production is no longer accessible to you, it's not something that is easily reproducible. Having to reshoot something is incredibly expensive. The actors and the talent may not even be available anymore. They may be on other projects. So, I would say that is one of the most feared threats that's out there right now. So how can we protect ourselves from that? One is obviously, as secure as you can make your infrastructure, the better. One of the things that we really try to do to enhance this is every file that comes into C is being scanned for virus and for malware. So that's point number one. That's important. And if we were to find anything, then we obviously are going to quarantine that. We don't do any processing on it. We notify the customer. We don't let executables in that could potentially be doing some other damage. And then again, securing at the infrastructure level is critical. And I think that's table. But that's one of the emerging threats that I think is becoming, unfortunately, a little bit more prevalent, and one that everybody needs to take very seriously.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Okay, so before we let you go, David, that's all the questions we've got time for. But I do want to ask you, if people want to find out more about the Sony solution and take the next step, what is the next thing they should do?
So I would recommend that they visit cmediacloud.com. So that's cimediacloud.com. There's lots of information there. And there's also a book a demo or a contact us there. And somebody on our team will get right back to you. But there's great resources. I see some people here that would like to see some case studies. You can find case studies there, some solution briefs, some customer testimonials, etc. And one last thing, going to that same site, cmediacloud.com, you can sign up for a free account. Now, it's a limited account. It doesn't have everything that you would get with a paid account, but you can really try it out for yourself. So I encourage anybody to do that as well.
Absolutely. I think I may be signing up for one of those today because I do create some content on the hobbyist level. So, David, this has really been a pleasure. And this is something that is just so crucial these days. And thank you so much for your time and for your presentation and for your insights in the Q&A. It's really been an absolute pleasure having you on today.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you. And as you can see, everyone, we've had the poll question up for a little while. For those of you who want to find out more about Sony, you can keep answering that for a few more seconds while I get ready for the next segment here. That's a wrap for the content, but we do now have to give away the last 2 Amazon gift cards of the session. And the winners have been chosen and they are ready to go. Now, as we mentioned at the beginning, as Jess told you, you do have to be present for the entire event to be eligible to win. And the last 2 winners of the $300 Amazon gift cards for today are Nicole Latiele from Virginia and Brian Rose from California. Congratulations to both of you. We'll be in touch with you ASAP about getting you your prizes. All right, so if you enjoyed today's event, consider that we can do the same kind of thing for your platform or solution. We'd love to hear from you to help you determine which of our hundreds of events each year would be a good fit for you. Don't forget, we can do custom events for you as well. Contact us at connect@actualtechmedia.com. We'd love to talk to you about it. And if you enjoyed that security coverage today, we heard a lot about securing your data and files and everything else. If that's your thing, you're really going to enjoy our megacast tomorrow, August 31st, which is about how your security needs to change to meet the current threats from the bad guys. That event starts at noon Eastern time, which is, of course, 9 a.m. Pacific time. If this is something that interests you, sign up now. Get ready to hear from a host of innovative vendors. You can see some of those there on the right. Going to be a really fun event, and you will learn a lot, I promise, if you show up. Okay. Folks, that is a wrap for us today. I really enjoyed being here with you. And on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank all of our presenters for putting together fantastic presentations and demos and Q&A insights. I especially want to thank Fortinet and Sony for making this event possible. Thanks to all of you who joined us, the attendees, for being here on this EcoCast and for your feedback at all parts of this. A lot of poll questions, and you were really engaged. That's always great to see. Thanks for all of your questions. It's a pleasure. That does conclude today's event. Have a great rest of your day.